Hey guys, it's Megan Aller, Sales Executive here in Greater Metro Denver, giving you your weekly market update, Wednesday at 10 o'clock as usual. This week I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what's happening with price transitions and price ranges and the evolution that we've seen with increasing prices over the last 10 years. One of the things that we're challenged with here in Metro Denver is we're all subject to the same media. When the media reports what's happening in Metro Denver, we have to keep in mind that there are markets within markets and we don't always have the same conditions that exist at every single price range. So this week I've taken everything and broken it apart for you for both attached and detached dwellings, broken out by $200,000 price segments so that you can see the difference in our market. Again, this report only covers the 7 Metro Denver counties. If it's not listed here, I don't include it in this report. So the first graph that I'm going to show you includes both attached and detached dwellings at the same time, and this is a 10-year price band transition. That dark blue bar that runs across the bottom of the page represents units that have closed in the last 10 years, year by year. They're between $0 and $200,000. Now, back in 2008, that was about 50% of our properties here in Metro Denver. However, now in 2018, that represents less than 5% of our inventory. As you know, prices have gone up 70% for detached single family and up 100% for attached single family in the last 6-year time period since we transitioned into this extreme seller's market. One of the concerns that I have for people that are looking for homes under $200,000 going into the next few years is that there's no development that's happening in Metro Denver under $200,000. So if something shifts and we go through a major price change or a major shift in the market here in Metro Denver, we have no new construction that's coming in at under $200,000. So unfortunately, this is almost Darwin's theory of evolution playing out before our eyes, where that is becoming an obsolete price range. Now we're looking at price ranges in that yellow price bracket, that's $200,000 to $400,000 is entry level, and looking at $400,000 to $600,000 in the light blue bar. Between the light blue bar and that yellow bar, $200,000 to $600,000 represents 77% of the inventory here in Metro Denver. So for sellers that are looking at homes that are over 1.5 million or buyers over 1.5 million, that now becomes the top 1% of our market here in Metro Denver. Now, do you think that the properties that are over 1.5 million are going to sell the same way as the other 77%? Not necessarily, but typically the stats that are reported out there pertain more so to the 77% than necessarily the 1.5 million and up market. But we have to address how all of those markets interact with each other. So the first thing that we'll look at is supply versus demand, or the ratio of buyers to sellers. What's driven the major price appreciation here in Metro Denver is that we've had an onslaught of demand that has come in for those units that are under $600,000. But when we look at those properties that are over 1 to 3 million or 3 million or more, look how much our inventory changes or our buyer to seller ratio. When we look at these numbers, if they're underneath 3, that means that it's an extreme seller's market. So it's an extreme seller's market for detached single family all the way up to $800,000. Now, when we go to the $1 to $3 million mark, that means for every one buyer in the market, they had 6.4 homes to choose from. That is not an oversupply of homes. That's a very healthy and actually a very fast luxury market, but it's not necessarily the same market that you would experience as a buyer if you're trying to look for a home that's between $200,000 and $400,000. Same thing happens when we looked at the attached markets for broken out by those price ranges. It ends up being an extreme seller's market all the way up to $600,000. And then once we pop over $600,000 and all the way up to the over $3 million market, we're sitting where between a 1 to a 5.5 to 8 ratio of buyers to sellers in the market. That means for every one buyer in the market, they have between 5 and 8 homes to look at, which again is an incredibly healthy luxury market, but they have more choices in that market, so we don't have as many units that sell as fast for as high of a price or seeing multiple offers necessarily in those higher price ranges because the ratio of buyers to sellers doesn't match up like it does on the lower end of the spectrum. When we look at units for balance, we are close to a balanced market at the top end of the market, but the blue bar again represents what we currently have in the marketplace. Red bar is what we would need for a balanced market in Metro Denver. We have about 33% of the inventory to offset that demand. When we look at the overall market, and we are in an extreme shortage of inventory all the way up to $600,000, and we start to achieve more balance as we go up in price range, okay? Looking at attached single family, same story reveals itself here, where we have about a third of the inventory that we need to offset demand at all price ranges. We are severely short of inventory when we look at those homes between $200,000 and $400,000 for attached dwellings. And then as you start to go up in price range, March, things start to balance out between that ratio of buyers to sellers. When we look at closed to list price ratios, there's a very slight transition that you can see here, but those homes that are being listed that are between 1 and 3 million, you actually have more negotiating power again because the ratio of buyers to sellers is different versus what we look at on the lower end of the spectrum where you're paying closer to that full asking price. Same thing happens for attached single family. Looking at that ratio of buyers to sellers in the market, you are paying a premium amount for those homes that are at lower price points in Metro Denver. Okay. For detached single family, looking at time on market, do you think that more expensive homes spend more time on the market? Absolutely, right? So if you're working with a $3 million seller and they think that their home's going to go under contract in that first weekend, there's a chance, but it's more likely that they're going to spend about 3 to 4 months on the market at this point versus those homes that are between 2 and 400, which is the sweet spot in our market, or 4 to 600, which are spending closer to about 3 to 4 weeks on the market. Okay. Looking at flash sales again, those units that go under contract in 7 days or less, it's more likely to happen at lower price points. But there are still some of those that happen at higher price points as well. At lower price points, especially those that are under 200,000, it's about 45% of them that sell in that first weekend versus homes that are at a higher price that are selling, it's about a third of them that go under contract that first weekend. Finally, the last one that we'll look at, same graph for attached single family. That's the percentage of units that sell in that first 7-day period. Now look at the $1 to $3 million mark and the $3 million or more mark. Last month, there were none of those that went under contract in that first weekend. So what does that mean? You can't be as aggressive in your pricing as you could have been probably a few years ago for attached single family units. However, if you start to go down in price, you see it's actually fewer of those units that are going under contract in 7 days or less. And it's interesting because this is the result of the remedies from builder defect laws about 18 months ago and new construction that's now coming to market. So it's important that you understand the difference between price ranges when you're getting ready to list or buy or sell properties here in Metro Denver, because there are markets within markets. Talk to your local real estate professional for help on this. If you'd like to get a copy of this report, you're welcome to reach out to me. All of my contact information is at the bottom of the screen. And this is Megan Aller. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I'll see you guys next week. Thanks.